I don't know when I first began to suspect that I wasn't dead. I guess it must have been when I realized I was thinking about whether or not I was dead. The anthropomorphic entity with the scythe hadn't turned up, so I figured I was either alive or undead. And it didn't take me long to work out which.
Oh, welcome back to Let's Play Discworld Noir, everybody. And I guess we are a full-on werewolf, not even a wolf.
I wandered through the streets in a daze, not really knowing what was going on. At first, I couldn't make out any colors. Then gradually the city came alive with vast clouds of pigmentation. Against it all, there was an ever-present mist of bright green, cloying and unpleasant. There was a dissonance about it that I couldn't place, until I realized I was smelling the rank odor of the River Ankh. I was smelling the world in a way I wouldn't have thought possible. Every smell fascinated me. The resonant scents combined into a symphony. Every street was an opera, every lamppost an invitation. I don't know how long I wandered the streets. It's hard to tell which way is up when your world has been turned upside down. I ended up back where I started because I didn't know what else to do. Plus, my coat was in the coffin, and Ankh-Morpork is a bad neighborhood to be caught naked in.
So, last time we died. We are still looting somehow. Private investigator, hot on the trail of the golden sword of the killers of Mundy and Malachite, and Reagan, and possibly some others. Like I said, last time we were murdered, and we rose from the grave a werewolf. Now, I know it seemed like we were a wolf man, we were in that animation, but I think you'll find pretty soon that that's sort of contradicted. So, let's see what's going on back at our grave.
I haven't got anything to eat, if that's what you want.
Woof, woof, woof.
I haven't got any idea what's going on either.
Woof, bloody woof.
Hey,
That's pretty sharp. Most people don't catch on to that.
what did you say?
Woof, woof.
You can talk, can't you? I mean, really talk.
Nothing gets past you, does it?
How did you do that?
Well, I can sort of talk.
Nonsense. If there was a talking dog in Ankh-Morpork, I'd have heard about it.
Well, the thing is, most people don't seem to notice it.
Yeah, right. Like you wouldn't notice a talking dog.
Seems like people only see what they expect to see.
How philosophical of you.
I just calls them as I see them.
So how come I can tell you can talk?
I don't claim to understand it, I just do it.
Do you know what's happened to me?
I'm guessing you didn't know you were a werewolf till you woke up this morning.
I'm a werewolf. That explains what's happening to me. I thought somebody slipped something into my embalming fluid.
First order of business is to train you up then.
Hold it right there. I don't need your help.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, tutorials.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. Look at yourself. What's your name?
Luton. I'm a private investigator. Well, I was. Then I was dead. Then I was, well, a werewolf, I suppose. I guess I spoke too soon. Maybe I do need your help. What's your name?
Gaspode the Wonder Dog.
Fans of the series will
The
recognize
Wonder Dog.
Gaspode.
Hey,
Number
don't
of books.
knock the name. I was named after the famous Gaspode.
Never heard of him.
Friend of
Most
Carrot.
people haven't. He belonged to an old man in Ankh many years ago. When the old man died and was buried, Gaspode lay down on his grave and howled for a couple of weeks. Then he died.
And they called him the Wonder Dog because he was such a paragon of doggy faithfulness and loyalty.
Until they discovered that his tail had been trapped under the stone, yeah.
How do you think I became a werewolf?
Well, presumably you got bit by a werewolf.
Bitten.
Right, lesson 1. Don't correct me grammar, all right?
Sorry.
Okay, well, once I've trained you, I suggest that the first thing you do is try and work out how you got infected.
Infected?
With lycanthropy. It's the blood disease that werewolves have. Now, since you don't have any cubhood memories of romping with your pack, I reckon it's a safe bet that you got infected somehow.
So someone I know is a werewolf.
Give the wolf a cigar.
So can I change between being a wolf and a man at will?
Sort of. There's a certain way the change works.
The change?
There's two things you've got to learn about being a werewolf. The nose and the change.
The nose?
Yeah, the nose. Werewolves
Tutorials.
have a unique perception of the world, a sort of a different point of smell.
I've noticed that. I can see scents as colors, and they have a certain feel about them, too.
Those colours are unique. Each smell has its own signature colour. So you can tell whether or not someone has been somewhere by whether or not you can see their scent there.
Even as a man?
No, only when you're a wolf.
And how do I switch between forms?
That's what the change is all about. It's a skill you've got to learn how to do. Now, you've already used it to turn into a wolf. Soon, you'll be able to change whenever you wanna.
How did I change this time if I didn't know how?
That's the other thing about the change. You have to change at the full moon. I guess that's what brought this on in the first place. Other times, it's voluntary.
So can I change now?
Give it a try.
At first I didn't know what to do, but Gaspode talked me through it.
Of this menu here, you just select
And
wolf.
when I could see the world in all its psychedelic glory, Gaspode started teaching me about the nose.
You look around, tell me what you see as a wolf.
There's a lot of colors.
Phew. I can see how you became a private investigator. You get a lot more information about scents with your werewolf senses. You can see them as colours.
I can see a mist of bright green surrounding everything. And there's something that looks like a long stream of purplish red cloud with some tiny fluorescent greenish yellow purple specks in it. Also, there's a ground fog of some kind of unpleasant blue.
Well, the bright green is the stench of the River Ark. No mistake in that. That long stream of cloud sounds like the scent of someone having gone through the cemetery recently. Does it smell like a privy carpet?
No, it smells like Carlotta, but with less treble.
Well, it wasn't me then. I guess I'm the ground fog of unpleasant blue.
There you go.
Who was it?
I don't know who it was, but it was someone.
I can't see my own scent.
Well, that's normal. You're so used to being around it that it's invisible to you. And that's handy for me, what with my stench and all.
So I can follow the purplish scent to find this person.
If you want, and assuming you don't lose the trail, other smells eventually drown scents out, especially out on the streets.
What about the coruscating dots?
What's it like?
It's like flashing green, yellow, purple.
Is it like mature mould with an earthy echo?
No.
It's not you then. Dunno what it is. See where else you find it and you might be able to work out what it is.
According to Gaspode, I could learn a lot from comparing different scents. I figured that could come in handy in my line of work. Assuming
And
I
indeed
could
it
change
could.
back to being human, that is. I gave it my best shot.
That's easy enough. You just select the human icon down there at the bottom, as they are helpfully showing you.
I learned from a master.
Right, that's about it. Apart from the full moon, you can be whatever you want to be. But as of the full moon, you're sniffing lampposts with the rest of us.
So that's a fairly sizable tutorial there, but it introduces a really neat mechanic. So as a werewolf, we are now able to
My own grave. How depressing.
sense, so we can see who's been at various locations. We can compare them to work out exactly who is who. We don't know whose scents correspond to it first. We have to work that out by deduction. But it really allows us this alternate way to collect information.
There was a water-soaked letter by my graveside.
Who would leave a letter? So we've been out long enough to be buried, I guess. They didn't tell us exactly
There's
how
a letter
long.
at my
but
graveside.
Who's it from?
Ilsa.
Who's Ilsa?
An old flame of mine from the good old days.
How old?
Old enough to be good.
What does it say?
It appears to be a love letter.
Dear Luton, I'm writing this letter even though I know I will never have the courage to give it to you. I have to leave. I can't tell you why. I wish I could. These last few days have meant the world to me, but I haven't the strength to tell you to your face that I can never be yours. I am married to an Agatean man named Two Conkers, and I thought I would never see him again.
Oh, she did tell us.
He was dead to me, and my life was empty. Please believe me. I never meant to hurt you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I will always look back on the Hotel Pseudopolis fondly.
You all right?
Sure. This is just one of those big emotional scenes like in the Clickies.
I suppose a bone is out of the question. Maybe a dog biscuit? Wag, wag?
Kinda would have been nice to get that back in the day. But I guess we know she really cares. She probably thinks that we're dead now. There's no telling quite how long we were out, but however long it took for the full moon to rise and change us back.
A mangy dog going by the name of Gaspode the Wonder Dog. Small, bow-legged, and wiry. Basically gray, but with patches of brown, white, and black in outlying areas. Gaspode appeared to have fleas. Hardpad, scurf, crusted yellow eyes, arthritis, rotting teeth, and horrible bad breath. Between him and Nobby, I was starting to worry about my circle of friends.
Well, it's the downtrodden that can get the best information sometime, Luton.
I'm back.
Good boy.
Let's see what Gaspode has to say. The usual dialogue options always
Are you
like
the
to start
only
with.
dog on the streets, then?
No.
Tell me about the others.
The Dog Guild. Bunch of troublemakers trying to overthrow the master race.
Overthrow the master race?
Yeah, your kind. Well, your kind before some werewolf bit you.
I'm not human
And who
anymore.
do you think could have bit me?
Well, there are a few werewolves in Ankh-Morpork. Like any busy metropolis, we have our share of the ethnic minorities.
Not all of those minorities change shoes by about 14 sizes in the full moon, though.
True enough.
You know, they keep referencing in this story, it's just wolf and man, and in the books it's that way too. But they animate us as sort of this werewolf hybrid.
Do you see scents as colors?
I'm not sure.
Nah, I'm just a dog.
How did you know what I was talking about?
I just had to think about what the things I could smell would look like as a colour. It wasn't too hard.
Can you go through those colors again?
All right. There was the general bright green mist of the River Ankh, right?
Right. And the hideously unbearable blue fog is you.
Hey, it was only unpleasant a short while ago.
You're telling me.
Then you've got a trail of purplish red with flashing dots, which is where somebody passed through the cemetery.
But we don't know who.
Right. And if you don't follow it before the smell of the Ankh drowns it out, you'll just have to wait until you find it again somewhere else and compare it.
Of how they keep this new ability from just solving all the mysteries instantly. The Ankh is very heavy and drowns out
Tell me
sense
about the
quickly.
Dog Guild.
I already told you. A bunch of troublemakers.
But there's no guild house for a guild of dogs.
That's right. No motto and no coat of arms. Not even a little tartan one.
So what's the deal?
The guild is made up of all the dogs who have been bad boys.
How do you join?
You have to run away from your owner.
What does a dog guild do?
Same as a regular guild.
Cut themselves off from everyone else and act smug?
That's about it. It controls scavenging rights, nighttime barking duties, breeding missions, and howling rotas.
Seriously?
Well, it used to when Big Fido was in charge. Since he, disappeared, they've basically just run around as a pack of thugs.
Disappeared?
He's dead. I know he's dead anyway. I saw it happen. But observational evidence isn't as compelling as you'd like to think. Nah, most of the dogs believe that he lives on, leading a huge pack of mountain wolves who nightly strike terror into isolated farmsteads. I guess it makes digging in the middens and hanging around the back doors for scraps seem, more bearable.
We're only doing it until Big Fido gets back.
Exactly.
Assuming the Dog Guild doesn't come into things, the sense is more what we're
Did you
concerned
run
about.
away from your owner?
Not exactly.
What happened?
He threw me into the river in a sack with a brick when I was a pup.
Oh,
How
gas
did you
boat.
survive?
Well, luckily, the river was the Ankh, so I just walked ashore in the sack.
That's quite a puppyhood you had.
Yeah, and that's not mentioning the certain confused relationship I had with the brick for several days.
So you've never had an owner.
Well, I was fixed up with some owners.
Were they nice?
Oh, they were nice, all right. They were so bloody nice, it drove me nuts. Yeah, they were always patting me and giving me a bloody B-A-T-H. Yeah. They even gave me a little bright doggy bowl with the words Mr. Huggy on it.
And you ran away.
The moment the brush hit the bubble bath.
I guess you can take the dog out of the streets, but not the streets out of the dog, so to speak. So important scents seem to be...
Who was Big Fido?
Yeah, he used to be a rather dainty white poodle with the overgrown remains of a poodle cut and wearing a diamante collar.
What happened?
He went, to hijack a phrase, barking mad. One day he realised that everything around him, his bowl, his collar, his kennel, his blanket, had his name on it. He ate his blanket, savaged his owner, and ran off to found the Dog Guild.
And others followed him?
He intimidated others with his dream that all dogs were wolves at heart and needed only to band together to overthrow humanity, the master race, and reclaim their ancient heritage.
And where is he now?
Nobody knows. But mothers tell their pups to be good, or Big Fido will get 'em.
I thought you said he was dead.
Oh, he is. I saw it happen. Sorta fell to his death. His sorry remains were picked up by foul old Ron and sold to a furrier in about 5 minutes. But that's just what actually happened. That doesn't mean anyone knows what happened.
The myth has more power than the truth.
You're not as dumb as you look, are you, Luton? I'll make a wolf out of you yet.
Pratchett loves themes like that, with public truth and perception being influenced more by story than necessarily by historical fact.
You said there were a few werewolves in Ankh-Morpork.
That's right.
Do you know any of them?
I thought I knew all of them.
Who are they?
Well, there's Ludmilla Cake.
Who's she?
Mrs. Cake's daughter. Even in human form, Ludmilla is built to a larger scale, and she has slightly pointed ears and teeth which are white and beautiful but catch the light in a disturbing way.
What's she like?
Apparently, she has this disturbing habit of staring at people's throats while she talks to them, which tends to put a damper on the conversation.
Anyone else?
There's Lupine, although he's technically a were-man. He's a 7-foot-tall, muscular, hairy young man with long canines, pointy ears and yellow eyes during the full moon. The rest of the time he is a real wolf.
That must make relations with other werewolves difficult.
Well, he appears to have a satisfactory liaison with Ludmilla, despite being the same shape only 1 week per month.
That all of them?
After that, there's only Angua.
Angua?
I don't want to talk about Angua.
Where does Angua come from?
I told you. I don't want to talk about it.
This is another little book in-joke. He would know her from the books. She is Captain Carrot's girlfriend. I think that's their status thus far. Also a powerful werewolf. Sorry for the video slowdown. I had to splice together a few things just right in this part. So, what would he know about? Maybe Carlotta.
Do I get werewolves in Uberwald?
Luton. Uberwald is the undead capital of the Disc.
And werewolves count as undead?
And if Sir would care to look to his left, where we can see the open grave that Sir was recently self-exhumed from.
I get the point. What about the von Uberwald
I like
clan?
that.
I think I've heard of those. Isn't their motto, carpe jugulum?
Seize the throat?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Well, that tells you what you need to know about the Von Uberwalds. So, Carlotta being a werewolf would not be beyond the realm of possibility. And now, there's no reason to suppose that he knows
You
about the
seem to have your
murders,
ear
but
to the street.
Ha, ha.
Have you heard anything about the counterweight killings?
I've heard a little.
What do you make of it?
Whoever it is, I don't think he's from outside Ankh-Morpork.
What makes you say that?
No one cares about what happens in Ankh-Morpork except for those of us who live here.
That's nonsense. We almost went to war with Klatch not that long ago.
Yeah. Nah, trust me. It's a local job.
in theory, I'm not sure that one's entirely grounded in substantial evidence. We know that there are a number of foreign interests competing around here. The gold-plated jewel and the gold sword are certainly not from around here. They are meant to be taken back to the...
There's some kind of bestial attacker out in the streets of Ankh-Morpork. It's hard to say anything about it, but could it be a werewolf?
What's it done?
It's killed at least 3 people, and probably a few more besides.
Did it kill you?
Yes, I think it did.
Well then, whatever it is, isn't a werewolf.
What makes you say that?
If it was, it'd have known how to kill you properly, right?
So what do you think it was?
Beats the hell out of me.
That is an interesting theory, and that one is much better supported. If they really intended for you to die permanently, and they knew you were a werewolf, presumably they would have had a better way to do it. So the counterweight killings... Speaking of the golden sword...
Do you know anything about a legendary golden sword?
Oh, of course. I've got one over here. Where did I put it?
Ha ha.
We do know that there's a lot of foreign interest, as I was saying, playing around. The counterweight continent being fairly involved in the counterweight killings. I wonder if you could smell anything on our envelope. Gaspo, that is. And I guess we could too, but...
I had a feeling that the envelope wasn't something I should discuss with everyone I met.
I guess not. Anyway, so he seems to think that the killings are a local job.
Thanks for your help, Gaspode.
I live to serve you, master.
Alright. And that something, whatever it is that's out there roaming, is not a werewolf. Now, assuming that our half-man, half-wolf hybrid isn't the standard for werewolves in the game, that they're just wolves or man, I think that's likely. Whatever we were animated like. So these are scents. We get a new inventory.
The aroma of a very old and slightly damp nursery rug.
And
Eau de Gaspode.
whenever we run into new scents, we can get them. They're either going to be named as a color, if we don't know who they are.
The scent of a woman.
Scent, which is around our grave, is some kind of woman.
The strange scent I first found in the cemetery.
And the magenta one, presumably our killer. Or if we do know them, it's just named by their name.
The scent of a woman around my grave.
You know, I have to say, I don't really like how the camera shakes back and forth, and they make those little wolf noises all the time. Just little stylistic things I'm not a big fan of. So we know what all the scents are here, but...
magenta scent with a certain sense of grim inevitability. I already knew where it would lead.
to follow the scent, and then thus piece together that we were actually killed outside of the Saturnalia Casino. I didn't pick that up in the cutscene, but anyway, here we
Having
are.
a chalk outline outside just didn't put people in the mood to gamble. It was probably the only time in my life I'd had an effect on high society.
And there not being many clues here, this would normally be another dead end, but fortunately, we are able to turn back into a wolf and see what else we can see. Now that green you see is the River Ankh. That's everywhere. But the magenta...
The magenta trail led to the site of my murder. I guess it must be the murderer's trail.
lets you know where the killer has been. And because they went away from the Ankh, they weren't quite able to... it wasn't able to fade away yet. Sometimes it'll fade away because this was several days ago. You see if you get inventory items and cross-reference them with
Unless I
smells.
missed my guess, the magenta scent belonged to the bestial attacker.
And you can get more information about the scents that way. It's just a really neat and very useful ability you pick up mid-game. I'm really pretty happy with it.
There was something more supernatural about the magenta scent.
Interesting. I wonder if those dots have anything to do with it. Well, there don't seem to be any
The
more...
green scent smelled like vegetation.
Except there's one dark green
The
scent.
scent seemed to originate from some kind of moss.
See, that helps you notice that there was a moss right by your body. So if you double-click, you can select the smell.
A vegetative smell.
And put it in your list of smells to remember. Turning back into a human, we can now notice that there is some moss.
There was some kind of moss on the ground where I had been killed. It obviously didn't grow here, which means it came from somewhere else. The question was where?
We need to be thinking about plants and horticulture, and where we might find and learn about more of those. And again, in the meantime, this would have been a dead end, and we'd have to start just randomly going places. Fortunately, with our werewolf senses, we can continue to follow the trail. And nothing else here. Interesting.
I followed my murderer's trail back to the Temple of Small Gods.
Yeah. And unless I'm mistaken, I think we might recognize that window. This actually, it took me a long to find.
I was on the other side of a stained glass window with some kind of angel on it.
Yes, in fact, we definitely recognize that.
I could see that someone was on the other side of the window.
And we know who it is, too.
I was confident the silhouette belonged to Mooncalf.
That's right, the devotee of Anu Anu. So we know the killer started or ended his trail in front of this window. Now, that doesn't mean that it was Mooncalf. It doesn't show him going into the Temple of Small Gods. But I do think it's very interesting that they appeared right behind him. That is something we will have to keep in mind for later. So now that we have this incredible scent ability, I think one of the first things we should do, you can see the new cemetery location there, is to visit the scenes of the murders that happened before. And maybe by smelling around, we can sort of get some idea of who was there. So let's go to where Malachite was killed, the rooftops of Salus and Phaedra. They've actually removed Clerk's Gable as a character. You can't select him anymore. And that's because generally you cannot turn into a werewolf if anybody is around to see you, for sort of obvious reasons. You want to keep your werewolfery under your hat. I think probably technically Ankh-Morpork is accepting, but there's
There
still
was definitely a magenta hint amongst the scents on the roof.
Nah, see, this is interesting. That means
The
your
magenta
killer...
traces were too weak to be accurately memorized.
Sure, but that means that your killer was also present when Malachite was killed. Now, that's probably not exactly...
A strange scent I first found in the cemetery.
Probably not exactly an enormous, mind-blowing
I
thing,
could tell that my killer had been here.
but it just does confirm that whoever killed Malachite was the same one who went after and killed you.
Around the chalk outline was a brown scent, presumably malachite's.
So now we can remember the dark brown scent being Malachite. This is what we were going to be doing for the first bit of this new chapter, is basically
Some
collecting
parts of
scents.
the roof had a navy blue scent to them.
We'll say exactly what this navy blue scent is. We're not exactly sure yet. There's a number of people it could be. It could be Vimes.
There were signs of a teal scent on the roof. The scent had a distinct hint of tobacco.
Tobacco sounds like it could be knobby. And I think, in fact, with this scent, immediately it shows you that, yeah, it is knobby. So that leads me to think that the navy blue one might be Vimes, or it could be anybody else. Anyone else who was up here. Clerk's Gable doesn't seem to have a scent, so probably not him. Well, now that we've taken out that, there's a few other places with interesting scents we should go. Sapphire's dressing room might be interesting. We could see if she had been anywhere. See, even without people telling us, we can sort of figure out who's been where. This is a great way to catch people when they're trying to lie to us or conceal their motions. It's a really good ability for a PI.
The cyan stench was coming from a bottle of perfume.
Right, cyan blob. And this one tells us right away it's obviously troll perfume.
Dark cyan was the most prevalent smell in the dressing room.
It's probably...
There was a booming bass quality to the scent.
That sounds like Sapphire, which interestingly probably rules her out as our killer, unless she somehow smelled different when she was killing people, which probably seems unlikely.
There was a hint of an apple-colored scent in the air.
It's not clear who this would be either. I guess it could be Mankin. He probably would be in here. But I guess we don't have a reason to think that he talked to Sapphire too much. Anyway, now that we know where that bright science scent came
Perfume
from...
was something called KC2, obviously intended for trolls.
Little perfume reference there. Anyway, we can collect that for later. Who knows what we need some troll perfume for. Just to show you what happens if you try to turn into a werewolf in front of people.
Much as I'd enjoy ripping Mankin's throat out, the Octarine parrot wasn't a great place to change into a wolf.
Time this is in the Discworld trilogy, there's still enough prejudice against the undead that he doesn't want to change. Well, let's see what we have in here. This is going to be interesting.
Around where Mundy's body had lain was a dark blue scent.
Well, that seems like a dark blue was going to be Mundy then. And dark blue is apparently
Where Mundy
different.
had been in his room, there was a dark blue smell.
Different than navy blue, which we saw from before. It doesn't let you select and memorize the same smell twice.
Human. I was pretty sure of that.
Anyway, so whoever's
There
navy
was
blue...
definitely the remains of a magenta scent in Mundy's room.
Which I suppose we should just expect
There was a hint of
that.
an apple-colored scent in the air.
Well, that could be Mankin too, I suppose. But that apple person was in here.
The teal scent strongly resembled tobacco and guilt.
And that'll be Nobby. And there's that navy blue again.
There was a bold scent of navy blue in the air.
It looked like that's probably Vimes. We don't have him as someone in our notebook, so we can't actually confirm that quite just yet. But I think that's a good working theory for now. Apple could be Mankin, but we don't have anything to conclusively show that. Alright, how about the Maudlin Bridge? Let's see who was involved with Reagan's death. Everything's... Obviously, this is right
on
by...
the Maudlin Bridge, the reek of the Ankh was at its most sickening.
That's right. Everything is washed out by the Ankh here, which is a neat mechanic, like I said before.
The smell of the Ankh almost drowned out the remains of the magenta
But
scent.
that magenta scent again is just everywhere.
The smell of the Ankh was too strong for me to pick out the magenta scent well.
He's not able to follow it like we were able to follow the magenta scent before. It's a fun way they have of not just completely wrecking the game by having you track it right there. So most other places are probably closed, or not places we want to go right away. It might be interesting to go down to the wine cellar in the Cafe Ankh and see if we can confirm. My guess was that fuchsia scent that we smelled at the graveyard was probably Ilsa. We know that she left her letter there, but it might be interesting to see if we can confirm that down here in the cellar, because we know that she and Two Conquerors are probably the only ones hiding.
The predominant smell in the cellar was of red wine, considerably more pleasant than the smell of the river, at least.
Red smell that's going to be wine. We're collecting quite a few smells in this first part here.
There was a lingering smell of purple in the corner.
Oh, there you go.
It was too scattered for me to remember it.
I see. And nothing else except for these
There
blue.
were some faint traces of a light blue scent in the corner of the cellar.
So it's
The
very...
scent was very weak, and I didn't think I would be able to remember it very well.
It's very likely that fuchsia we saw by our graveside was probably Ilsa. I'll see if I can cross-reference this with the Ilsa and Two Conquers note we have in our book. And that light blue is probably Two Conquers. About who he agrees to definitely say is one scent or another.
I guess the fuchsia scent might be Ilsa's.
See, I don't think that's enough for him
The
to say.
scent was extremely weak, and I didn't think it was important.
That is just his gentle way of telling you it's probably not story important to memorize Two Conquers' smell. But you can see, I think, with the evidence that we got here, yeah, he's not willing to say that fuchsia was Ilsa.
Definitely the same scent.
Even though he agrees that it's clearly the same scent here as was in our graveyard. I've never tried to turn here. There's nobody around to watch us. I wonder what it would be like if we tried
Turning into a wolf wasn't something I was entirely comfortable with yet. I was trying to restrict myself to just when it was really necessary.
That must be a little catch-all phrase they had for when they didn't want to show what scents were in the place. So we could check out the Temple of Small Gods. Oh, maybe we should go to Rodin's workshop. and see if we can get his scent, see if he was anywhere else. The more scents we can collect, the more clear a picture we'll be able to get of future crime
There
scenes.
was a blue mist around the statue Roden had been working on.
Well, that's interesting. That could
The
be...
place where malachite had been perched smelled of a deep, earthy brow.
You know, there was also a blue scent in the cellar, so I guess Roden could have been down there for some reason. We couldn't collect that blue scent from the cellar, so it's impossible to really tell if it's the same. But at least we know he's not the killer, not that we really thought he was.
There was a superficial similarity between the two scents, but I don't think they were connected. They were very different in tone and pitch.
Navy is not blue. Well, we'll know him if we see him later. Let's head to our office and reconnoiter for just a little bit. I can't think of anywhere else that would make a lot of sense to go to just yet. I've got an idea of what to do for the future, but, you know, in times like this... Oh! Or accidentally, but, you know, it might be interesting to see what goes on. And see if we can find anything around Sapphire's... excuse me, not Sapphire. Around Therma's grave, or purported grave. Had to find an
Turning
insert
into a
disc
wolf
1 there.
wasn't-
Yeah, nothing. Alright. I guess we shouldn't have expected anything, and we can't get any more golden, or diamond teeth. I was just looking for holes there, I guess. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, I think the real thing to do would be go back to our office and...
When I returned to my office for the first time since my murder, a man was already there. I knew he was a man because Corporal Nobbs was the only person in Ankh-Morpork who has to carry a letter to confirm his species. He's the kind of man you get itchy from just talking to. There must be something here. Hello, Nobby. Luton, you're alive? I was just cleaning out your desk. Yes, of everything of value. Didn't they bury you? Rumors of my death have been slightly exaggerated. Meaning? Meaning I'm not dead, I just got buried. Yeah, don't tell me the details. Suit yourself. Nice crowbar you're using to jimmy open my drawers. Yeah. I sort of borrowed it from the evidence room. That's okay. I sort of borrowed it from a cart. Oh, I searched Reagan's body. There were 2 tiny bite marks on it. Really? I guess it was more suspicious than you thought. Well, I ought to go. Looks like you don't need your things collecting. How goes the case? The counterweight killings? Oh, still not much progress. They wouldn't let me investigate it if they thought there would be. How many murders do you guys think there are? 3. One of the patrician's clerks, the reader of esoteric occultism up at Unseen University, and one of the city's richest merchants. There'd be 3 more if you counted Mundy, Reagan, and Malachite. I suppose so. Still not convinced? Well, Vimes isn't convinced. Even though I've been cleared, I have to get back to the yard.
I like how he sidles
Nobby didn't
out.
seem very comfortable around me. I didn't know if it was because of my return from the grave or because I'd caught him trying to steal everything of value that wasn't tied down. Although with Nobby, even if you tied it down, he'd steal the string. The only thing I was sure of was that my next step was to look into the counterweight killings. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what I found.
And I feel like I know what our next move is. I want to find out about that moss, and I want to know if any of you can think of how we should do it. Let me know in the thread, and I will see you guys next time.